Hey guys! Thanks so much for checking us out. Please don't forget to visit our website for more details about our show. And follow us on social media. Visit teeningup.com for more information. Here's today's episode.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Teening Up. We have a very special guest today, and we're going to be talking about a topic that is a very hot topic for teenagers. Also, a little bit scary and exciting and fun, and there's just so many things going on. Today, we're talking about what? About
Driving.
Driving. That's right, about driving. And that is, I was very excited when I started driving, but I know we all have different stories. But before we even get there, we have a special guest here today, brand new to our show. She's never been here. She's been a listener, so we thank you for that. Lucy, welcome. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are y'all?
Doing good.
That's
Doing good.
good.
Thank you for
Doing great.
So
coming.
glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm so glad it worked out. We've been trying to get this episode out for a while now, and finally worked out. So
Mhm.
we're glad that you made it today.
Yeah.
You actually drove here, huh?
I did drive here.
See, that's awesome. All right, so we got a lot of great stories. Arielle, you've been driving too, huh?
Yes, I have.
So why don't we start with give me a little bit about that very first time behind the wheel. Okay, so let's start with Arielle and then we go to Lucy. Okay, do you remember that very first time behind the wheel?
Yeah, I do. It was in a parking lot, and it was my very first time. I think most teenagers do it, where you kind of start in the parking lot and you kind of get to know the vehicle and go very, very slowly. And so you were instructing me on the basics on how it works before I even got in. And once I got in, I was very, very slowly driving in an empty parking lot, not really doing much, but just pushing the pedal and turning the wheel.
Were you scared that very first time or?
No, I was actually excited because, it's a very, I guess, monumental moment for a teenager. And it's almost like part of the rite of passage to
Mm,
growing up is
yeah.
to learn how to drive.
I
So,
remember being in that parking lot, and I was like, well, what are we gonna do in the first lesson, right? The very first lesson, I was nervous as a dad, right? You were gonna be driving your mom's car, and I was like, okay,
mhm.
what are we gonna do? And I remember we went to to the emptiest parking lot we could find, very close to the house. We're like, okay, nobody's gonna be here. There's not gonna be any cars here. There's not gonna be any cops here. And there was a cop, right?
Yeah.
Remember?
There was a cop. He was
Of
just
course
chilling
there
there.
was.
It was like, come on, what are the odds, man? We chose the emptiest parking lot ever, and the cop was right there in the corner. I think he understood and he knew what we were doing, so
Mhm.
he just left us alone.
Yeah.
And
God bless that cop.
that's right, that's right. So, but it was cool too because it was a great way for you to feel a little bit of the pressure that very first time, and going around, and going close to where the cup was, and then just kept driving. And you
Mhm.
did really good. I was actually very amazed. Ariel did amazing, especially when it came to parking. Do you remember parking?
Yeah, parking I feel like is a challenge for anybody, really. But yeah, I actually didn't do that bad for parking. I'm quite surprised on my first try. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but it was definitely pretty good for not being behind the wheel for a long time.
That's true. That's true. Lucy, do you remember your very first time
I do.
behind the
I
wheel?
do.
Yeah.
My first time, I was with my dad too, and we went to this, when I say tiny, like this super, super tiny parking lot.
Mm.
And there was like a little wraparound into like the woods and everything. And so I remember my dad drove us there and we parked, and then my dad had to go to the bathroom, so we went to the bathroom, and then I was sitting in the car, I'm like, I'm about to start driving. And I remember being really, really excited, and I put my foot on the pedal and I started revving up the car. I didn't know I was, but
Oh
I
my
did.
god.
And my dad came back, he was like, "I heard you were revving the car up." And I was like, "Yeah,
A little
yes, I
too
was."
excited.
Yeah. And then we just kinda just drove back and forth and really slowly, and he just taught me what to do, and we just kinda went over whatever was in the moment. There wasn't a lot to do in such a tiny parking lot, but this was the day right before my driving school, 'cause, I was trying to prepare for that and get ready to actually start driving. I had already done the whole class portion, but I hadn't done the driving portion yet, and so that
Mhm.
was literally the next day. So I was really nervous
Yeah.
about that, but with driving with my dad, I was really excited. It was a great time. I really liked my first time driving.
That's awesome. I
Yeah.
love it. I I remember my first time as well was actually I'm trying to think because I think I had different people that helped me learn, and that was for me was back in Mexico. So now you guys think it's challenging here when you have very nice, roads where we're very, clear lines where you're supposed to go.
Mhm.
Try Mexico.
Okay.
Yeah, for those listening that are not familiar with the roads in Mexico, first of all, the roads aren't as beautiful. They're paved. I live in the city, right? So it was a big city and all. So they were paved and all. It's not like I was like in a little town. So that was good. However, they don't take care of the roads as good as we do here in the U.S. Second of all, you barely see the lines. Sometimes they don't. There's not even lines that you can see and you can tell.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is very very crazy there.
Oh.
Plus,
Can't imagine merging.
oh yeah, and people over there are crazy drivers.
Yeah.
They use the horn all the time. Okay, it's like I don't know if you've never ever been to New York. New York, you hear the horn the whole time. So Mexico is like that. Plus, on top of that, they're yelling at you.
It's so stressful. I hate
Yeah, so that was
It's
a
fun.
completely, added stress. Plus, I have more
Oh,
girls. I have
gosh.
more. In Mexico, there's not really automatic cars,
Oh,
Oh,
so you had
got
to
it's
do
most
the
like
stick
stick
shift.
shift.
So now
Yeah.
imagine you're thinking about stepping on the clutch,
Yeah.
right, and putting the gear on, and all these different things, plus all this nonsense,
Yeah.
going on around
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
So it is a lot of fun. It is very stressful. But I remember I was actually driving a little VW Beetle, those
Oh
little
yeah,
tiny
the
ones.
Beatles. Yes.
Yes.
I
Oh, I
wanted one
love
so
those. Me
bad.
too.
Those really fun, and those the gears are kind of weird
Yeah.
how they are, and they're clunky. The wheel is very hard to move, but it was a lot of fun just feeling, the sense that I was actually going somewhere, right, and just driving. It was just very exciting.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's a little nerve wracking too, but it was very exciting.
Yeah.
Now, in Mexico, I didn't have the opportunity to buy a car, and we'll go into that here in a little bit. But tell me a little bit about a memorable moment, right? So, a time when you felt like maybe really, really confident or totally freaked out.
Well, I mean, I have 2 of those, one for each one. I felt really confident the first time I actually drove myself to, like, a place, like, to work.
Mm,
Like, so, cause then I felt like, okay, I actually got here safely, and then I felt even more like what really sealed the deal was the fact that I got home safely, cause it's
hmm
like anything can happen either way. So that really gave me confidence, cause then I was like, okay, I can actually do this, and, like, I can actually take myself places. Time when I didn't feel as confident was actually when I got in my first accident.
Uh-oh. Okay.
That was actually the very, very first time I was driving alone, period.
hmm
I was driving to church, and I actually had my friend in the car with me.
Actually, he was here, right?
Yeah,
Addie.
yeah.
Addison was here actually
Addison
on,
Yeah.
on
was
that
in the
very.
car with you. You didn't
Yeah,
tell me
he
about
was
that.
I forgot. Well, you'll hear it now.
Wow.
So, anyways, yes, Addison was in the car with me, and so we were driving to church, and it went great. Got there safely, enjoyed church, had our youth group, and then we were driving home,
Mhm.
and on the way home, um, that's when the accident happened. It actually happened closer to the church, like not even 5 minutes after I had like left the church. And what happened was I was driving and I was hit in, I believe, my left rear bumper.
Mm.
Yeah. And I was freaking out because, I mean, you go over this even in driving school or maybe just with your parents or stuff, but it's almost like when in the moment when something happens, you kind of like everything just goes out the window and you kind of forget all about what to do in those situations.
Right.
But luckily, I think the good part about having the passenger in my car was also like I wasn't completely alone, so I felt a little
Yeah.
more like stable knowing I had someone who's gonna help calm me down. And I wasn't that freaked out, but I was also like obviously not like completely fine. And he was there helping me, and we were both able to, we pulled the car over, and the person behind us was also a young person. She was a college student, and she was really freaked out and started crying hysterically. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I think in the moment I was too stunned to cry.
Mm.
Oh.
So I was still trying to figure out what to do, and she felt really bad. And then, eventually I called my parents, and there was a sheriff who happened to be driving in that, area, and he pulled over because he noticed us stopped, and he called some cops over to help us deal with the situation. It was not thank God, severe accident. It was just a dented, scratched bumper. Um, Her car took a little more damage because it was a sedan, so it took her light out, but, everyone was fine. There was, like, no issues, but in that moment, it was definitely pretty scary, especially with your
Yeah.
parents, and it was literally my first time driving by myself. I had had my
Mm.
driver's license for a while, but it was my first time really, like, being free on my own, and so it was kind of frustrating because it's like, it's my first day and already this happened.
And you drove all the way to church.
Yeah.
Fine, no
Mhm.
problem.
Yeah, everything was fine on the way there, so I just think it's very odd that on the way home something happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was a pretty scary and discouraging moment because then it felt like on my first day, this has already happened.
Mhm.
And like, can
Yeah.
I really do this
And
then?
we'll expand on that more because I remember vividly that day,
Oh, I do
because
too.
you did call me. But
Mhm.
yeah, we'll go into that here in a little bit as well. But Lucy, how about you? Any memorable moments? Good, where you felt really confident or where you were really freaked out?
Um, I think both. I'm gonna start with the bad one first. I'm just gonna say bad, but, uh, I think, like, the first moment where I was like, "Oh, great." Like, I wasn't as confident anymore, especially after it, was my first accident, which I remember, uh, what was it? I went to go, drop off my application because I had applied for, this store called Windsor. It's in downtown Franklin,
Mhm.
and I was bringing my application there, and so I had already driven there perfectly fine, parked in the parking garage and then left, and my sister was with me as well. So and then once I dropped it off, I went back and then I drove out, and it's already raining outside, like, it's really dreary, and
Mm,
the roads are wet, and, like, I'm just not, I don't know why, like, music was playing in the background too as we were driving down the road, and, so I was already really distracted by the weather and the music and just
sure.
my sister talking to me as well, and then Anna wanted to go to Target, and I didn't really want to. I was like, "No, I don't I don't wanna drive all the way to Target," but then I gave in, and so we were making a turn, and, I completely forgot to yield. Like, I was so distracted, I wasn't thinking about it, and the light was green, but I was making a left turn, and so I was like, "Oh," in my head, I'm like, "Oh, it's my turn to go." And so I'm turning, and then my sister screams, she's like, "Lucy, stop, like, Lucy, turn, like, stop." And so I was like, "What's going on?" And so I turned the wheel to the right, and, all of a sudden, there's a big bump, and it's, like, in the front of my car on the left,
Oh.
headlight.
Mhm.
And so it was, like, big, and, uh, the car in front of me was going completely straight, so, um, I stopped the car completely in that intersection, so I'm just, like, right in the middle sitting there, and I'm freaking out, like,
Sure.
it was horrible, like, I
Oh, yeah.
remember being like, "Is this actually happening? Am I actually,
Yeah.
like, is like, I it was horrible, I didn't even think about my sister, I was just all it was all in my head, and I was just, like, really freaking out,
Yeah.
and my sister was like, "Lucy, it's okay, like, calm down, like,
Yeah.
let's get to the side of the road," and so I was like,
Mhm.
"Okay, okay," so I calmed myself down, and then I drove to the side, and then that other car had driven on the other side of the road, so she was, like, a few yards away from me. And then thank goodness there's, like, a bunch of nice people that stopped, like, in the middle of the road for me and were asked, like, they got out of their car and they were like, "Are you okay? Like, can we help you?" And so they were instructing me as well, and it's like, it wasn't just my sister, it was, like, a bunch of other people. And I thought that was, in that moment, it was such, like, a God-given thing. It's like the
Mm,
community really came together, and, like, I just
Yeah.
yeah.
felt so loved in that moment, like, there's these random people coming over to help me, like, get out of such a
Mm.
hard situation, so
Yeah, you
that's
got
another story, but then I went into the gas station right next to me, and so I'm sitting there and I got out and I finally got to look at the damage that was in the front. Whole headlight was out, like, it was busted into the car.
that's
Oh,
It was the
wow.
crazy.
left one. It was so bad, and I'm thinking, and I'm like, "My parents are gonna kill me." And this is my mom's BMW, um, and I'm like, "This isn't happening." Like,
Yeah.
I'm never making it out of this,
Yeah.
even though I survived the accident. Um and so we're standing there, and then I'm, like, crying. Like, I was shocked, but I know that you said you were too shocked to cry. I was
Yeah.
shocked to the point where I'm like, I'm breaking down. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
No,
and then
I
my
get that.
sister starts breaking down too. She's upset, and then, she called my dad first, and he got down. He was already at work, so he works in downtown Franklin, so he's, like, right there. So he drove down, and, he was talking to the cop that came down. Somebody eventually came and, uh I remember the cop telling me he asked for my license, I gave it to him, and I literally still had my paper copy license. So I've only had my
Oh.
license for, like, 2 weeks, and I'm like
Mm.
how you felt, this is
Mhm.
my first time driving, like, alone, but, like, this is, like,
Like,
my first, like, couple
yeah.
weeks of having a license,
It's
and it's
like,
still and
great.
it yeah, and it's still a paper copy. So, that was really discouraging.
Yeah.
And then the cop told me, he's like, "If you hadn't turned your car, then you would've T-boned. And if they would've T-boned, it would've hit my sister's side of the car."
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
It was
Know that
horrible,
part.
yeah. And that
It's crazy.
that was incredibly discouraging too because I'm like, my sister could have been really hurt.
Yeah.
And I don't know, but even though it was discouraging, it was also a really good learning moment. But
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's my little
Wow.
That's
How
a
about
miracle, though.
it is. I mean, I think that, and again, we'll go ahead and unpack that more
yeah,
as we move forward.
yeah.
But and that's another great story, right?
Yeah.
I mean, another great story that's there's a lot of learning in that,
Yeah.
and you can see the grace of God
Mhm.
Mhm.
throughout the whole situation. I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
both of your stories, you can see the grace of God, and we'll
Mhm.
unpack that here. But how about another one where you felt like very confident,
Mhm.
very happy,
Yeah. Probably, I think it also might be my very first time driving just by myself. I remember I asked my parents, I was like, "Hey, can I go visit my friend Anna Fedorka?" And I was like, "Can I go drive to her house and say hi really quick?" And my parents were like, "Yeah, you can go." And I felt so happy. I was like, "I can drive by myself." And so I'm driving and I'm playing I remember the first song I played was Driver's License by Olivia Rodrigo. Because I was like,
Iconic.
I have to. I had to do that.
Yes.
So, I felt so incredibly confident driving, and I'm just like, I'm on top of the world, like, nothing can stop me, and so I'm just driving. I just remember that being the most, like
I
Yeah.
I
love
was
it.
very confident in that moment.
I
Mhm.
love it. That
Yeah.
that is great.
Mhm.
I if I tell you about a bad situation, I've never gotten in an accident where it was my fault, thank God.
Mhm.
Um, but I have been in an accident.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
fact, I had a Kia Forte. I remember many years ago.
Love that car.
Oh my gosh,
Loved
that
that
car
car.
was beautiful, right? It
Bright
just
blue.
that's right. The interior was all black. It was so
Okay.
cool.
Yeah, you I never
Ran
got to see that car.
No, I
it
didn't.
ran
I wish
really
I did.
fast, and I loved it, right? I loved it. So I was driving in the freeway. I was getting on the freeway, and I was actually on this slow lane, right? So all the way on the right side. And then as I was passing a ramp, I hear something, and then I feel somebody hit me really hard. So I was on the first lane. My car shook, and I turned all the way to the left. So I started going to the second, third, fourth
Mhm.
Yeah.
lane, and
Yeah.
then back all the way to the first lane. That was
What?
crazy because I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna get T-bone, right in
Yeah.
the
Yeah, he could have
freeway,
been hit
imagine."
Mhm.
by, like, every single lane.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Well, apparently
Remember
there was
that?
an off-duty cop behind us, driving a pickup truck with lights. So he was able to turn the lights on as I was going,
Yeah.
to the fourth lane and then back to the first one.
Crazy.
Nothing, absolutely nothing happened to me. Like I was
Wow.
completely fine,
Mhm.
didn't feel any pain or anything, but the car was totaled.
Yeah. His precious
Yeah.
car.
I know,
I
my
hate
car, my
that.
gosh. Yeah, so but it was so interesting, and I think
Mhm.
all of our stories have God in them. And I
Mhm.
love it, because I think that is the confidence that we can give those who are starting to drive, right? And
Mhm.
we'll unpack that as we move forward. But that was my first time that I ever had an accident. And now I have a pickup truck, right? So I'm like, I
Mhm.
have to get something
Mhm.
bigger just in case.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a little more
Yeah. Yeah, I
steel,
agree.
a little more support.
Exactly.
One thing I do remember, because he was by himself during this
Yeah.
accident, but I do remember when my mom got the phone call and we were, like, kinda freaked out because obviously the car was totaled, and the
Yeah.
fact that the car was totaled could also mean, obviously, that the people driving it could also be, like, severely injured,
Mhm.
because the fact that his car got squished.
Yeah.
But what was crazy about it, because I remember mom talking about it, because, like, if that off-duty cop who was off duty had not been there, like, you could have definitely been severely, severely injured, if not, like, really bad. Like,
Mhm.
you
I
could
agree.
you could have had a lot more severity in your injuries, and who knows, like, maybe, like, you could
I
have
probably
been
won't be able to play soccer
unconscious,
anymore.
like,
Man.
surgeries, like, who knows what could have okay, but also other things. But I do remember that because the fact that, you're going across all these lanes and they're driving so fast at 70, 80 miles per hour, like, they could have totally, like, crushed your car and you.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
definitely God was there
Yeah.
because stuff could have happened to him.
Mhm.
The fact that it was totaled.
Yeah.
So
that is so true. That is so true. And then one of my fun, happy moments was when I was here in the U.S. Right, I had a ride. I was already here for like probably 4 or 5 months, and I was I needed a car, right? So I've been saving for a little bit, and then a friend of mine was like, "Hey, so I did this job for this guy, and he wants to pay me with a car, but I want the money, right? So I'll sell it for you to you, for, for like $800." Like, oh, that's
There you
awesome,
go.
sure. It wasn't, like the newest car, but it wasn't the old. It was actually in really good shape.
for like
It
eight
was
Good.
a
hundred bucks.
Honda Accord.
Oh,
It was a
yeah.
nice, red color, and it just looked so cool to me. I was like, "Oh, this is awesome!
Yeah.
My very first car
Yeah.
ever!" So
Yeah.
I gladly, accepted that, and I remember that time driving back to my house, and it was just a beautiful experience to have your own car, and be able to
Mhm.
drive it. It was so cool. Now let's talk about some of the mistakes that we've made driving and the lessons learned. If you look back at some of your history driving, what do you think will be one of the worst mistakes you've made and one of the biggest lessons learned? Start with Ariel.
Like aside from the accident.
Sure.
Okay. Well,
And you can, share about the accident too, is
yeah.
fine.
I think obviously the one of the biggest mistakes I think aside from the accident has been not paying well attention.
Mm,
Like, and it maybe nothing bad resulted from that, but like there's a lot of could haves
mhm,
that shouldn't have, because it's like if I had just paid more attention, because I can be focused on the road in front of me, but then sometimes I forget about the road around me. So
mm,
then I think that's what also leads to big mistakes of like, wait, don't turn yet. And someone's honking at you because it's like, hey, like it's my turn, or like in your case or something, or like, hey, like you could have hit me or something, like a lot of could haves that could have been prevented had I been a little more aware of what's around me or cutting people off a lot
mm,
because I'm not aware of they're actually that much closer to me than I thought. And, with the accident, it wasn't my fault because she hit me, but it's my fault in the sense of I could have prevented it had I noticed her coming from where she was coming and then maybe probably merged if the road was clear and then saved us from an accident.
yeah.
So I think just being more aware has definitely been a big thing for me in learning because I've made a lot of mistakes through not doing that.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I think, I know you, right? You're my
Mhm.
daughter, so I know you. And I know that you are very focused, right?
Yes.
And so I think that is a great strength to have. But sometimes, especially when it comes to driving, the awareness, right, of your
Yeah.
surroundings, sometimes that
Mhm.
can be tricky for somebody that's so focused, right? If you have that strength of being focused, then you can just focus on one thing and one thing only. So
Mhm.
sometimes being aware of what's going on outside of your immediate road it's not an easy thing to do, and I think we
Yeah.
we worked through that. We talked about it. We talked about different techniques, different things that could help you, right? And could
Mhm.
you share a little bit about that, like what has helped you with being more aware?
And it might sound kind of funny, but it actually works for me sometimes. Initially, to help me learn to be more aware, I would talk to myself.
Mm,
Maybe either under my breath or out loud or even in my head, just kind of constantly talking to myself helped me notice. For example, it's like, okay, I'm driving right now. Okay, there's this car right next to me. Okay, this car is merging. Okay, this car is just driving straight. They're fine. I don't have to worry about them. Okay, this car wants to like cut in, or this car is waiting for us. Like, like I'm just constantly
so
I
talking
you're
would
to
do the
myself.
exact same
narrating
thing.
your whole
Yes,
life.
I'm basically narrating like a movie what's
Yeah.
going on around me. And that actually helped me focus on it
Mhm.
because then I know, okay, like I'm driving, but I'm doing all these other things. So then it actually helped me be more attentive. So as weird as
I
it
Interesting.
know.
sounds, it actually worked for me to just talk about it
Mhm.
or even just like hum something to myself, even not even about the road, but just sing something to myself.
Yeah.
Just help me like actually focus. It sounds so weird, but it works
Wow,
It's
for
not
me.
though. I would do
interesting.
the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Really.
Mhm. I would
Really?
just talk to myself and be like, "Okay, gonna turn now. I'm turning." It's like I
Yeah, I'm
would talk to
turning.
myself the entire time. Like, this was after I got into my accident. I was like, "I gotta be more focused. I gotta do
Mhm.
what I have to do." And so I started talking to myself.
Yeah.
So
I
that's crazy.
love
I
that.
you never told me that before. So I was like, "Oh, wow." Another way to
Oh,
disconnect. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
I know, actually. But yeah, it
oh.
works for me. It sounds so
Yeah,
weird
it
it
worked for
might
me
be,
too.
but it
Yeah,
really works.
yeah.
You know, that's great advice because there's probably a lot of you that are listening or watching us that are gonna start driving, and maybe you don't you're not paying attention to all these different things. Perhaps try that. Try talking to yourself as you're driving. Try narrating what's happening. What you see around you, and that probably make you more aware of what's going on and making better decisions. Lucy, how about you? Any of uh mistakes and lessons learned that you can share with us?
Um, Biggest mistake was probably my accident.
Mm.
But, along with being more aware, I
Mhm.
completely agree and relate to what you're saying, and along with that, personally, would be, being less arrogant on the road,
Mm.
Mm.
and acting like that I'm invincible and acting like I'm on top of the world, because I know that when I was in driving school and my parents would tell me the same exact thing, like, "You are not invincible." Um, I know that you're a teenager and that, like, your mind is more like, "Oh, like, I'm in the prime of my life,
Yeah.
and I'm looking good, like, I'm doing great, and I'm driving now," but that that doesn't like, what you're thinking doesn't account for anything else in the world, like, there are other people on the road with you. You're not the only one
Mm.
there. You need to start thinking about, um, other people on the road and not just about yourself, so I think being less arrogant was a very, very big lesson that I learned, and I started taking into account with myself. Um, and it helped me to notice, also other people, like my sister, since she started driving, like she's acting the same exact way that I did. And I'm like,
Mm.
oh no, you don't want to do that. So
Yep, from
yeah, that was probably
experience.
the biggest lesson that I
I
learned.
love that. And this
Yeah.
is the one of the main reasons why we have this podcast, right? I think to have these conversations with teenagers, right? Because there's
Mhm.
a lot of teenagers that are going through the same or similar
Mhm.
situations, and it's going to be really good for them to hear from experience,
Yeah.
from
Mhm.
those who have gone through it, those who have made some mistakes and learn from them. And I think that is really important, right? To be able to understand that there's other people in the road with
Mhm.
you
Yes.
too,
Yeah.
Yes.
right? That is very important.
Yeah.
And like, for example, when I got hit in the freeway, the lady that hit me was driving and she was texting
Mm.
and she had a baby with her.
Oh my gosh.
So I was like,
Yeah.
come on, like,
Mhm.
oh, I felt so bad for her. So I'm like, I'm fine. Is your baby okay? Everybody okay? Because
Yeah.
so I'm more concerned about that,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah.
I think that those are some of the other things that, now we can discuss here, which is dealing with distractions, right?
Mhm.
And I think initially, I remember when you started driving, Ariel, one of the things we were sharing is don't put music,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
can you share a little bit more about those distractions that probably were
Well, initially when I
there?
started learning and, I think the first time I started driving myself was, like, the my parents were very adamant about no distractions. Like, you're not allowed to have music, don't, like, call anybody in the car, and
Mhm.
clearly, obviously, no texting or just anything on the phone, but, like, nothing other than the road and your car.
Yeah.
And yourself, like, everything else complete silence, and I think that definitely helped, honestly. I mean, obviously, as a teenager, it's like, "Man, that kinda sucks, but I love my music." And, there's nothing like driving in your car with your music on, and you're just kinda vibing to the whole thing, but, I have to say it does help initially. I mean,
Mhm.
obviously, I think it's okay after once you get used to it,
Mhm.
but I feel like the first few times, like, you don't want any other distractions because 'cause you're probably already distracted in itself about the fact that you're actually on the road,
Yeah.
whether it's distraction from nervousness or distraction from maybe feeling invincible or, like,
Mhm.
super excited, so I feel like that's already gonna get your brain going with a lot of things you don't need.
Mhm.
So, I feel like those extra distractions do just add more, and that's when especially, even if, like, you have music on too loud, you don't hear, I don't know, like, sirens coming by or a honk or something, so I
Yeah.
think it
Yeah.
definitely
Now,
helps.
and when it comes to like your phone, right? To
Mhm.
texting and driving, I don't believe you do that. At least I
No,
hope
I
you don't.
haven't. I'm too afraid to actually. So, they actually even went over that in, driving school. Did they do that with you? Where it's like,
Yep, they
okay,
did.
like, they had the driving simulator, it's like, "Okay, now text and drive," and
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
most
I
people
remember that.
Really?
crashed as
Oh
they did
my
it.
gosh.
I
So,
didn't.
You
I
did.
did not.
I technically didn't either. I was a little wobbly, but it definitely is not easy. So, I'm actually kinda scared to even try that.
Yeah.
So, I have not done it.
Good, good. So, what do you do? What is like the strategy that you do with your phone when you get in the car?
Um, I'm not gonna lie, I prop my phone up so I can see it, but I also use it for GPS.
Okay.
So, like, I kinda do have to use my phone for certain
Mm-hmm.
places if I don't know how to get somewhere. Um, but other than that, like, if I get a text message during I'm driving, I don't look at it yet, or I just will okay, I'm not, like, completely staring at my phone for GPS, right? But I'm, like, driving, and then I'll glance over and see, like, just make sure I'm on the right path. And I have my GPS talk to me, so I also don't always need to be looking at it because it's already telling me, like, and like a few feet ahead, this light, turn at this
Yeah.
light, so I just kind of already can rely on it in that sense.
Yeah.
Lucy, what are some of the biggest distractions that you've experienced, and how do you deal with them?
Probably my siblings would be the biggest
Oh,
distraction whenever I'm
yeah.
driving them, like,
Okay.
especially to school and back.
Uh,
Oh my gosh, they're talking and they're, like, arguing, and, like, that's probably the
oh
biggest
my
distraction.
god.
I genuinely have to tune them out. Like, I
Hmm.
just cannot.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I
I don't know
can't
how
do
you
it,
do
yeah.
that.
I don't know, I just gotta keep looking straight and not answer them, like, even if they ask me a question, like, I'll still answer, but, like, I won't fully be thinking about it because 'cause I'm like, I have people in the car with me, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta keep driving
Yeah.
and not do it. And I've made mistakes by, like, looking back, like, oh, like, talking to them, and
Sure.
then my brother would have to remind me, like, "Lucy, look at the
Oh
road."
my
Yeah.
gosh.
My brother's very on top of that. He's like, "You
Yeah,
Okay.
need
my brother
to."
too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he
Mhm.
is.
He's like, "Look at the road." I mean, I've
Yeah.
never had but even with my mom, like, sometimes
Yeah.
she'll look back at us or something, talk to us, and he's like, "Look at the road,
Yeah.
mom."
That's my brother too.
He's, like, freaking out. It's so
Very soon
funny.
we're gonna be doing an episode on siblings, and Josiah's been my son, Josiah, your brother, has
Yep.
been asking a lot to be in the show. He wants to be in the show, and I was telling him we're gonna do a show on siblings, so maybe we'll invite one of your
Yeah,
siblings
all
over
5
too.
of them.
Yeah,
Oh,
all 5. I don't know if they fit in here, but we can try.
that'll be fun.
We'll
That'll be
cram them
fun.
all.
Yeah.
So besides your siblings, is there any other distractions that you think are there? How are you with your phone and
Mm.
texting? Are you pretty good with that too?
I don't really use my phone when I'm driving though, unless it's a really important text that I need to answer. But
Mm.
I mean, it's not my number one distraction, I don't think. It's probably up there, but it's not number 1. Siblings are probably number 1.
So driving with your phone, it can be very distracting, most definitely, right? And it can be a temptation to just have your phone with you, and you hear a ring, and you see the message, like, I wonder what they're saying. I wonder what happened. It happens to me all the time as well, right? So I think it's the temptation of having the phone in front of you, and nowadays everybody does. Everybody has a little, you know, holder where you can put your phone and such, right? But so how do we deal with that? I love what you said, Lucy, about there's a little pocket that you have, in your car that you just put your phone in. Perhaps putting it in silence, right? Too. That would be another good way, and do not disturb, something like that. So I will, recommend you guys to maybe do that just to prevent any accidents and just anything like that. Now, when it comes to challenges around driving, right? So, what do you think is the biggest challenge that you've experienced driving? Was it the actual act of driving? Was it parking? What was one of the biggest challenges?
For me, I had a few challenges, but I have to say, one challenge that I think is pretty unique to me personally is that I'm kinda short,
Uh-huh.
and it's funny to laugh at, but it's a genuine issue for me.
Mhm.
Driving school, they have the little sedans you practice in.
Uh,
Yeah.
I'm too short for that. So I can't see much of the lines in front of me. So when I was driving, I'm not driving probably as well as I can, then making mistakes because I can't literally see what's in front of me very well. And
mm,
it wasn't, and people can laugh at it, like, go ahead. But for people out there that are like me who are short, this might be an actual issue for you too. It's literally like I'm driving and I can't see past like the little set of lines in front of me. And, he's always telling us,
mm.
"Look beyond," and it's like, "What? I can't see
I
anything
can't see the
beyond."
beyond.
You know? And so, my instructor literally told me, like, "Hey, you might need, like, a pillow or something to
Uh-huh.
put on," and I'm like, "No, I'm doing that." Like, "Yeah, let's see me put a pillow under me." But I noticed it's definitely the type of car because in my mom's car, I can see fine, but she has a taller car. She has a Buick Enclave, so it's
Mhm.
it's a, SUV, and it's, higher. And I can see in SUVs pretty well. Like, I think I can but I think sedans are definitely not for me in regards to height. So that's definitely a
Mm.
struggle, a little more personal, but just quick tip for all of you short people out there learning to drive, maybe don't go with a sedan. But, in regards to, like, normal challenges, I would say, um, I think just getting over I mean, some people are different. Some people are really excited to drive, but getting over like the lack of confidence.
Mm,
'Cause I feel like the more nervous I got, the more mistakes I'd make.
Yeah.
And the more I was like, "Oh, I don't think I can do this," the more mistakes I'd made. So definitely the biggest challenge was learning how to drive confidently
mm.
because
How did
obviously
you achieve that?
telling myself I can do it
Mm,
and taking the baby steps of victory. Because I feel like there's such a high expectation for teenagers, period. You have to drive by 16. It's
mhm.
like 16 is the time you start driving, you know? And but it's almost like right when you get your license, like the day you get your license, you start driving by yourself. And yeah, that's true. So for some
Mhm.
people, I do know some people, that did drive it like literally immediately, right? And some people who still have their license and still aren't driving by themselves. But I think for me, I wasn't driving right away. And then obviously when I had my accident, it definitely decreased my confidence a little bit.
Mhm.
It didn't like make me scared to the point where I stopped driving, but it did make me feel like disappointed because it's like first day out of like my chance of freedom and I'm already screwing it up, you know?
Mm,
But I think getting over that hump was really just telling myself having expectations that aren't impossible to reach. Cause it's
mhm,
almost like my expectation was I'm driving by myself immediately right away, perfect, no mistakes.
mm,
And that's what got me. But having the baby steps, okay, let me start driving by myself to the grocery store that's 5 minutes away from me. Okay, achieve that, safe, home, victory one.
yeah.
Okay, now let me drive to myself to work. That's like 10, 15 minutes away from me. Okay, victory two. Let me drive myself to school and get on the freeway to actually get to school.
Mhm.
Okay, got there, got home. Victory three. So baby steps of victory and not having this high expectation that you'll never amount to if you put too much pressure on yourself. Having the
Mhm.
baby expectations of, yeah, you will get there, but let's get there step by step. And that's what definitely helped me get more
That's pretty
confident.
good. Pretty good. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
How about you, Lucy? Some of the main challenges that you've experienced driving.
Um, Probably, I think one of the main ones I remember always struggling with was, like, driving in the rain
Oh,
Mhm.
and, like, harsh weather and all of that. I've
yeah.
gotten a lot better, like, it just feels normal now, but, I remember that being so difficult, like, people are driving towards you, some people have their brights on, some don't, it's just
That's
it's a
true.
just people with their brights, I can't.
Yes, I
Especially the ones that
know.
are, like, the trucks that they don't even have their brights on, but it's still, like,
It feels like they
oh,
do. Yeah.
it's
Oh
so
my
annoying,
gosh,
and
yeah.
especially in the rain, and it's, like, reflecting off the little light and all that, and
Mhm.
it's I don't know. But driving in the rain was probably a big thing, that I struggled
How
with.
did you overcome that? What
I just
was it?
kept
Just
practicing.
practice.
I
Okay.
just kept practicing. I just kinda pushed through it because I was like, "I know that I can do it, like, it's not impossible, so why am I gonna stop myself if I know that it's not impossible?" So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I just kept going, and I
That's
didn't
really
get
good.
scared of it, so,
That's good.
yeah,
It's really good. I think practice makes perfect, like they say,
it
right?
does.
And I think we get a lot of rain here in Tennessee to be able to practice a
Mhm.
lot,
A
right?
lot
Mhm.
of
In California, you
conditions.
wouldn't have any practice really because
Mm-mm.
it didn't rain as much. But here in Tennessee, we get a lot of rain, so we get a lot of practice. In fact, today I was driving, I was going to, I can't remember, Costco or something, and it was raining,
Mhm.
and my truck is powerful, right? So if I step on it, it will just go, right? And so it has a feature that allows me to drive in the rain a lot better, a lot safer. I forgot to turn it on, and so I was driving, and all of a sudden my truck goes like this.
Oh.
Luckily, I'm used to driving trucks. In fact, I was relating with what you were saying earlier because I'm not very tall, right? And so I used to drive tow trucks myself back before I was going to college, and the big old trucks, right? And
Yeah.
so driving those big trucks, was really fun. But yeah, I understand about not being able to see the whole road, right? But I think you get used to it, right? I think being able to know your car, how big it
Mhm.
is, how small it is, right?
Yeah.
And then you get certain things in the car that you look at that will be aligned with the lines, or
Mhm.
be able to tell you, oh, I'm going too off the line, or
Yeah.
too off center. So I think the more you drive the car, the more confident you're gonna get. And what you were saying, Lucy, about driving in the rain, right? That's very challenging for
Oh, yeah.
everybody. Everybody, like I'm telling you, it happened to me today, right? So I think the more you practice, and like you said, I know I can do it. I know I can do it. Talking to yourself and being like, I know I can do this. And I think, as Christians, we know that we can do all things in Christ who strengthen us, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
And so I think that right there is one of the most powerful things when we can rely on God and know that He is there with us. And that brings me to I want to talk a little more about the accidents that we all had, right? Because
Mhm.
I think we saw God in all those accidents. For me, I saw God in the fact that I went through all the different lanes in the freeway during the busy hour, and nobody hit me, right? I mean, just think about it, right? If somebody just sees a car coming and they're driving 60, 70 miles per hour, I mean, it's very likely you're gonna get hit again.
Mhm.
I didn't. I mean, the fact that there was a off-duty cop right behind us
Yeah.
and turned the lights on and and was able to see the whole thing and stop the traffic. I mean, God was there with us, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I remember when your accident happened, Ariel, you were very, very calm
Mhm.
above all the things. You know, I think that's the peace that surpasses all understanding that God give us, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember you were just calm, very, very mature for the situation. Your friend Addie also very mature for the
Yeah.
situation. Did
Definitely helped.
you know, a lot of great help too. So I think that was all God situation because
Mhm.
if you had somebody else that maybe would get freaked out about the situation, maybe it will be much harder to handle. So did you see God in your accident?
I definitely did because obviously one, you know, for anyone, it could always be worse than what happened,
Mhm.
like I said, like nothing like the only issues that occurred was just like that bad scratch and dent in the car for me, and then her headlight got busted, but other than that, everyone was fine. So I think that's definitely God too, because it wasn't that hard, and I was in a big car, so it also didn't feel as like powerful hit as it could have been.
Mhm.
Also, I do think you're right. Like, I did feel one probably too shocked to like really like hysterically cry or anything, but also I did feel a little more like, okay, like calm down. I need to think about the situation because like right now, like I can't be freaking out because it's not gonna help.
Mm.
And Addie, the fact that he actually like knew kind of what to do too,
Mhm.
and he was talking to the girl while I was like on the phone with you and trying to like help. So we were like dividing and conquering, and what we needed to like do with this. And so it definitely helped, and I definitely felt better knowing that I had someone with me. Because
Mm.
I feel like, you were very blessed to have people with you that like still other people stopped, but
Mhm.
like it was kind of freaky because my accident was actually at night,
True.
on a road that wasn't busy, very, very busy at all. A couple cars passing here and there, but obviously no one stopped to help us. Um, this girl that hit me is crying like hysterically. And I'm not saying that's an issue. Like I get it. Like I would be crying too, but like I said, I think in the moment I was just too shocked to actually react in that way.
Mhm.
But her, so, she's freaking out and she's all by herself with no one, She didn't even have, I don't think, family in that place that she was living in,
Mhm.
around her. So, and I think it helped for me to have someone because it helped me stay grounded and kind of actually assess the situation and figure out what to do. And then obviously you guys weren't that far from where we were.
Yeah.
So it took you guys like 15 minutes to get there. And it definitely helped the situation in that sense.
Yeah. How about you, Lucy? Do you see God in your accidents?
Oh, 100%. Um, like I said, with the community and the people around me, I just felt like that was really God given. And also the fact that even though it felt like he wasn't there, he really was, and that God let this happen, kept me safe in the process.
Mhm.
But I remember thinking after that, like I'm always so grateful that my accident happened
Mm.
Yeah.
because I was able to learn from that. And
Yeah.
I was able to just apply everything that happened there and be like, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't do that next."
Mhm.
Just
Mhm.
Sure.
really learn from it, and I'm glad that God put me in that situation.
I love it.
And I'm glad that he was able to, like, teach me these kind of things and, like, put me in a situation like that where I'm able to learn.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
That
that's
was
probably
really
the main
interesting
thing.
what you said because I mean, the fact that people, got out of their car to help you, guide you, but also your sister, right? That
Mhm.
Mhm.
instead of freaking out, and she's younger than you, right?
Yeah.
Instead of getting, scared or freaked out, she
Yeah.
was calm and be able to help you. I
Mhm.
think you see God in all those little details
I do, yeah.
throughout the whole thing,
Mhm.
and I
Mhm.
love it. I love it because he's always there. He's always there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about parental guidance and rules. What rules do you find helpful and what rules do you find frustrating?
Um, I think, I mean, everyone might have a different opinion on this, but I think for me, kind of helpful at first to have no distraction, like those no music and calling people and stuff, because it does help you actually like focus and adjust. And I think easing into that versus like off the bat just throwing all that in was a good rule to have. Rules that aren't helpful. Um, I just feel like I honestly don't have any designated rule that I really disliked.
Mhm.
'Cause I feel like there was no honestly, I feel like y'all didn't give me very much rules actually.
Mhm.
Like, other than, like, the basic, I guess, rules of just, like, with the car, and I think for me still, I'm still getting the hang of it, and I think once, because I still don't have my own car yet, so I
Mhm.
think once I get my own car, I feel like more rules will be added,
Mhm.
but right now, I think since I'm driving, my mom's car, I think there's not as many rules in the sense of, for me personally, because 'cause I'm not really going as many places anywhere, because I can't always use the car, so, I mean, I think right now I'm okay on the
Okay.
most part. I'll get back to you on that one, though.
All right, we'll revisit it. How about you? Any rules that you find helpful and any rules that you find frustrating, Lucy?
Um, I probably find the distraction one very helpful too. I can't think of anything else. I mean, I didn't really get a lot of rules. It's just kind of like common sense. Like, don't do
Mhm.
this, don't do that.
Yeah.
That's it. Something that I don't really find very helpful, which this is just it's like I don't like my curfew when it comes to driving. Like
Mm.
I can't be driving past this one time. It's 100% necessary, but I mean, I don't like it.
Well, yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think anyone's gonna,
Nobody's
like
gonna like it, but
it
that's the
and
only
be
thing
like,
I can think about that I
"Yeah,
just
Yeah.
don't really like. But still,
Makes sense. And and
yeah.
and
yeah."
you'll be getting one of those too once you get your car here
This
soon.
is what I'm saying.
Thank you.
Just hold up on the whole
Prepare.
which ones you don't like.
Exactly. Well, I can't talk about that because I didn't have any rules, right? When I
Mm.
was young,
Yeah,
like
he
that.
was he was his own child.
Oh.
Or maybe I did, but I didn't know about them, right?
Mm.
I don't know.
Didn't know or didn't listen? Which one?
Now I think with teenagers, one thing that's I don't know, it's just crazy is peer pressure, right? And then saying no to that. And I don't know if that's more prevalent on boys than girls. Have you guys experienced any of that? Like, driving fast or doing something, bending the rules or just being reckless because of that peer pressure. Have you guys experienced any of that?
I haven't experienced peer pressure from my peers, like my friends, because I feel like most of the people I know are pretty like they're pretty good about like respecting if you don't know how to drive yet, or
Mhm.
if you're still working on it. Like, so I don't have issues with my peers, but I have felt pressure with other drivers on the road.
Oh, okay.
So like,
Mhm.
some people get a little more impatient,
True.
like go already. And then sometimes that has made me like go on impulse, like, okay, I gotta go or turn or I gotta speed up or but I don't really need to. I just need to not let them affect how I'm driving just because they're getting mad because I'm not going fast enough, even though I'm going the speed limit.
Yeah.
Or I'm not turning because I'm yielding to the light, but it's green, but I can't turn yet. I don't know, like things like that. So obviously, like I said, there's been times where I have made the mistake of going on impulse because they're pressuring me to. But
Okay.
I think just no not letting that affect you and you know what, like, don't let them treat you that way and let them pass you then if you're going too slow or let them get mad all they want until they finally realize that, "Hey, I can't go yet because of, yielding," or whatever the issue is. So I just think that's been the pressure more than actual, like, friends.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. Lucy?
Uh, Probably my parents' pressure. Like, I love
Mm.
my parents so much, but, like, when I start driving, like, my parents are, like, in the car with me, so they're nervous too, like, "Oh," but they're
Yes.
not driving, I
Yes.
am, so but I know, like, my mom, when I started driving, she would always be like, "You gotta go a little faster, like, you can't be going this slow." But then my dad is the complete opposite. He's like, "You need to slow down, like, you
Yep.
need to," and I'm like and so
Yep.
there's no balance when it comes to that. My mom doesn't do that anymore, but because 'cause I'm kind of
Yeah,
more
yeah,
on the
yeah.
fast side of driving, like, I don't go under the speed limit. I'm either maybe, like, it's speed limit there or maybe, like, 5 above because of traffic.
Mhm.
So, but my dad is always like, "You need to slow down," like, and I'm probably not even going that fast, So, like, probably the pressure of that
Yes.
gets me very, like, oh, like, nervous, like, I need to be very perfect when I drive, you know?
Mhm.
Mm.
But
I
yeah, that's
agree with
probably
that. I think
yeah.
it does actually, yeah, I forgot about that because I think if I'm being honest, it stressed me out a little more with you originally,
Yeah.
because you seem a little more, um, like, worried about it, and so it stressed me out, so I feel like I was gonna make more mistakes because of,
Mhm.
like, almost everything I was doing is like, "Oh, like, he's gonna call it out or something," and I feel like with my mom, she was a little more relaxed on it, like,
Mhm.
she'd still freak out, obviously, but in certain times, I'd make, like, bad mistakes,
Yeah.
but I feel like just it felt a little more stressful with you at first.
Yeah.
I think just your reaction felt a little more pressure as well.
As a parent, and for those parents that are listening, especially as a dad, right? It's always about protecting, 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 right? And so you're always thinking about the what if scenarios. At least I do, right? What if this happens? What if this happens? What if she does this and then this happens? And then, so I'm very stressed because of that, of
Mhm,
trying to prevent every type of situation and scenario that can happen. And but yes, you're right. I was a little more critical on that just to make sure that we are preventing problems. And I think that it's all learning experience for everybody, from
mhm,
parents to the kids, as well. And I think is a learning experience on how can we better communicate with each other
mhm.
to be able to help during times of pressure, because it's not just it's not about driving. There's going to be a lot of situations in life that are going to be in similar type of stress, where it's going to be very stressful. And how can we react better to be able to really help the situation rather than make it worse, because, and I
Yeah.
think it's perspective as you guys sharing. I have to think about that perspective as well and understand where you guys are, like you mentioned, Lucy. You're the one driving. It's so true. You're the one driving, and so if you have a backseat driver telling you what to do,
Yep.
or like I was telling you earlier, right? And like that adds more stress. I think is just a perspective of us putting ourselves in your shoes, right?
Mhm,
And understanding what the stress that you guys are feeling, the stress that you guys are going through, and so that'll make us better communicators, right? Too.
mhm.
So I'm glad that you guys are patient with your parents. Thank you. And because I think we're all learning together. The one thing that I also want to say is you were mentioning Ariel about the pressure that you were feeling from other drivers.
Yes.
Honestly, I think first of all, driving in Tennessee is very different than driving in
Oh,
California.
yeah.
I
People
wouldn't
are
know.
crazy drivers
Yeah.
here.
No, but I think in California people are a little more like hurry, 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 fast, fast, fast. And here is more chill. You're at the light and the light turns green. They don't honk at you. They kind of wait. Unless you take forever,
Well,
right?
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
but
But for the most part, they kind of wait, and then you go, and then they go. That's the first thing they notice. I'm like, wait,
yeah.
why are they honking?
You're, like, expecting it to go and, like,
Yeah.
honk on it.
And so that kind of helped me. Okay, I need to be more patient too, right? And then seeing you drive, and then driving along with you and stuff. I'm like, okay, now I'm getting better perspective. In fact, the other day I was driving and I was getting a little bit like frustrated, and then I noticed that it was a teenager. I'm like, oh man, I have to remember. So I became a more patient driver because of it too. But I
Yeah.
think it's good for everybody that's driving to acknowledge that there are drivers that are learning, that are still learning, that are
Mhm,
like teenagers. So it doesn't help to try to rush them, and so I think we all need to be a little more patient in this world,
Mhm.
right?
mhm.
I agree.
All right. Well, I think we're getting here to the end of the episode, but as we close here, I want to open it up. First of all, Lucy, and then Ariel, to see if you want to share anything, any closing remarks, anything that you want to share with the audience, with us.
You want me to go
Yeah.
first?
Okay.
Okay. The only thing I wanna say is, like, I think I stated this a little earlier in the episode, but that there's this expectation to drive at 16
Mm,
and to be a great driver at 16 by maybe your peers, your family members, other drivers around you. Um, but the reality of that is that that's not true, and everyone learns at a different pace. I mean, obviously, I get it if it gets frustrating to the point maybe you're not driving like already and you're getting close to college or something.
mm-hmm.
Like, I could still see how that would be stressful, obviously, and you want to definitely like try to be a good driver before then, right? But I just feel like not everyone drives right away at 16. Like, yeah, if you want to try it and get your license at 16, go ahead. And then maybe, but if you're not ready to actually drive by yourself, yeah, that's fine. Because there's that expectation. I feel like the more pressure you put on that, the more you do get nervous and afraid to drive.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, I have to be doing it, but I'm not good at it yet. and then you go off, and then God forbid you have an accident, or you haven't done it, and you're like, "Oh, I'm not as good as everyone else now because I am not driving yet." Um, or like at 17, if like for examples, I know someone who had a friend who got their license at 17 and started driving at 17. And I know he's probably a pretty good driver. I'm guessing, and he got it older, but I think that's fine because that's when he was ready. I know my mom got it at 17, and people are getting cars maybe at an older age, but like I just think drive when you're ready, and there's no real rush that you have to be driving by 16. That's just the social norm, but it's not the necessity.
Yeah.
So take your time
Mhm.
with it, have fun with it, relax, and just keep cruising along until you reach the time when you're driving by yourself.
There you go. Thank you, Ariel.
Yeah.
Lucy?
Um, Probably just in general, like, especially with what you're saying, like,
Mhm.
if you don't feel ready, you're not, but just don't be discouraged by that.
Yeah.
And no matter what happens on the road, if it's an accident or you make a small mistake, a big mistake, whatever, don't feel incredibly discouraged by it because there's always a way to fix it. It's not the end right there. Like
Yeah.
that is not it. Like you're gonna be fine and just like learning from a bunch of things, like I was saying before, like learning from your mistakes is probably the best thing that you can do. Even if you
Yeah.
make it, it's gonna be okay. Like you can move on, but just learning from that and always looking on the bright side of things is probably the best advice that I could give about driving.
Love it. Thank
Good.
you. Thank
Good.
you for that. And for me, I guess there's a couple of tips that I want to share other parents as well. First of all, try to put yourself in their shoes and just remember, go back to when you were starting to drive and the different emotions you were feeling, the different anxieties and nervousness and excitement and whatever it is that you were feeling during that time, so that we don't add to it, right? So we can help your teenage kids, through this process the best way we can. Of course, we're gonna make mistakes, but I think just put yourself in their shoes and try to be as patient as possible. A couple of tips that I want to share with you is, if you can, put your kids through driving school. I think that helped a lot, and I don't know if you guys can give me a little bit of perspective here on that as well on the driving school, but I think it was well worth it in many many different aspects, right? Even if you want to be the one that teaches your kid how to drive, I think being able to have somebody else do the basics as well and help with that is going to just be a team effort, a collaboration type of thing that's going to help everybody. And lastly, there is an app. What's it called, Ariel? It's 360
Life 360.
Life
Live
360.
360. That is a
Do you have that?
Mhm,
fantastic
I do.
app.
Yeah.
I love it. Especially when your kids are starting to drive, that app is gonna help you see where they're at, how fast they're driving. It will give you alerts. It's really good to be able to have that kind of visualization on the driving of your kids, and just gives you also the peace of mind,
Mhm.
knowing that your kids arrived to the destination or they're on their way back and so on and so forth. But driving school, as we close, driving school was driving school helpful?
Uh, yes, but real fast on the Life 360. Also, try not to like watch it every single second because I think that'll add more pressure as a teenager. But obviously, use it to your discretion, but also make sure you let the teenagers breathe a little bit and trust them a little bit
We don't do it
because
that bad, right? We don't do that.
no, you guys don't do it that bad.
Okay, okay, okay,
I'm
good,
just
good.
saying for future reference.
Okay.
But, in regards to driving school, it was helpful in, certain aspects, like, obviously, like, not having the pressure because you got an instructor who doesn't really know you, so they don't know your record with driving, and it's not the pressure of, like, a parent who's, like, freaked out about their kid because 'cause they're so used to driving helping teach millions of kids drive, right? So, they kind of already know, like, if they make a mistake, they're not as freaked out,
Mm.
and it definitely eases it a little bit. I do think there's a couple cons to it though, because I feel like they kind of freak you out at driving
Oh,
school.
yeah.
I mean,
Really?
I don't know if it was just
Oh.
our driving school,
Oh
but
my gosh.
I felt like
I forgot
afterwards,
about
I
that.
felt a little more scared to be on the road
Yeah.
because it's
Oh,
helpful,
wow.
like I said, in those aspects. But at least at our driving
Yeah.
school, they freaked us out a little bit.
It's probably better than making everything light though and be like, "Oh,
Well,
you're gonna be
yeah,
fine," but at the same time, there wasn't really a balance with that, but
yeah, I feel
it's
like
still a really good
yeah,
it's
I
a
think
really
it's
good thing to
great. I
do.
think definitely go. I just also
I'd
just
recommend.
acknowledge pros and cons. Like, it's
Mhm.
not gonna be all great, but it's also not gonna be
Yeah.
all
That's
bad
kinda
as
everything
everyone
too,
thinks.
so
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
you
true.
can't really expect something to be completely perfect, but
exactly, so
Do you think it helped you, Lucy, having driving school?
yeah, it did. It did a lot. Just them going over basics, like you said. It really helped with, just learning things at a quicker pace. Cause like, we
Sure.
learned
Mhm.
all of that in, like, the span of maybe 4 weeks or something like that.
Wow. Uh-huh.
But some people do, like, for a full week, like, every day. You just
Yeah,
learn
that's
you
what I
learn
did.
you learn the
Wow.
basics
Yeah,
really
you do, like,
quickly.
a full it's like a school day. You, like,
Yeah.
go for
Yeah.
multiple days a
Yep.
week or for 1 week, and then you learn all that.
Well, there you have it. That would be another great tip to hear to give to parents and to teenagers to be able to take that driving school. That will be a great advantage, and just
Yep.
sets you up for success. Well, thank you guys. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank
thank you.
you. Thank you, Lucy, for
Yeah.
You're
coming.
welcome.
Really appreciate it. You did great.
She did amazing. Yes. All right, guys. Well, we'll see you guys on the next one.
Bye,
Bye.
guys. Be careful out there. Hey, guys. Thanks so much for checking us out. Please don't forget to visit our website for more details about our show. And follow us on social media. Visit teeningup.com for more information.